This video will reveal the profound secret of awakening taught by Robert Adams, a gentle path to Transcending. Expand your consciousness, not by adding anything to yourself, but by surrendering the one thing that keeps it contracted, the belief in a separate, personal you. The following is an authentic verbatim excerpt from a satsang with Robert Adams, as recorded in the book Silence of the Heart, Dialogues with Robert Adams. You have to get to the point where you are not moved by anything. You are not just the witness. You are pure awareness, but you don't know it. So you have to start by being the witness. You witness your thoughts. You witness the world. You witness your body. You realize that you are not those things. You are the witness. This is a beginning practice. As you keep doing this, the witness will merge into pure awareness, and you will see that everything is yourself. There's only one self, and you are that. So when a problem comes to you, what do? Immediately you ask yourself, to whom has this problem come? The answer is, it has come to me. Then you pursue the me. Who is this me? Where did it come from? What is its source? You follow the I thought back to its source, and it will disappear. It will be dissolved in the heart, and the problem will go with it. There is no problem. There never was a problem. The problem was the I thought. When the I thought is gone, there are no more problems. Do not try to solve your problems on the level of the problem. You will only create more problems. Go to the source. Find out who has the problem. That is the only way. Everything else is a waste of time. When you abide in the self, there are no problems. There is only peace, love, harmony, and bliss. This is your real nature. You are not the body-mind that you appear to be. You are the infinite self, pure consciousness. Realize this and be free. We exist within a self-imposed prison, a confinement so total and so familiar that we are no longer aware of its walls. This prison is the belief in and the feeling of being a separate person. It is the deep, unexamined conviction that I am this body, I am this mind, I am this collection of memories, desires, and fears. From this single fundamental error, all other forms of human suffering are born. The feeling of being a person is a feeling of limitation, of vulnerability, of being a fragile entity in a vast and often hostile universe. This is the state of contracted consciousness. It is the experience of being a tiny, isolated fragment, rather than the boundless whole. The quest to expand your consciousness is therefore the quest to dismantle the walls of this prison. The teachings of Robert Adams, a sage who embodies the gentle, compassionate path of Advaita Vedanta, offer a key to this prison. But the key is of a peculiar nature. It is not a tool to be used by the prisoner to break down the walls. It is the dawning realization that there is no prisoner and there are no walls. The secret to expanding consciousness is the discovery that consciousness is already and has always been infinite, boundless, and all-pervading. The feeling of contraction is an illusion, a dream, a case of mistaken identity. The you that feels trapped is the very substance of the trap itself. Therefore, when we speak of the secret of awakening, we are not speaking of a technique that the personal self can practice to achieve a future state of liberation. This would be a contradiction in terms. The personal self, the ego, the I thought, is the very embodiment of bondage. It cannot liberate itself any more than a shadow can escape the object that casts it. The work is not to improve the self, but to see through the self. The work is not to expand the consciousness of the person, but to realize that you are the infinite consciousness in which the person appears as a fleeting thought. Robert Adams' approach is one of profound gentleness because it is not based on struggle or forceful effort. It is a path of surrender, of letting go, of ceasing to do. The tension, the anxiety, the feeling of being a contracted self is maintained by constant effort. It is the effort of trying to protect the body, the effort of trying to control thoughts, the effort of trying to manipulate the world to get what we want and avoid what we fear. This doer, this manager of our lives, is the ego. To relax, to truly expand your consciousness, we must learn to stop this frantic doing. We must learn to surrender the doer. What does this mean in a practical sense? It means to begin to question the reality of the one who is at the center of all your problems. When a wave of fear or worry arises, the first and most crucial step is to ask the question Robert taught: to whom has this come? The immediate answer will be, it has come to me. This is the critical juncture. The ordinary path is to then dive into the story of me and my problem. We analyze the fear. We try to solve the situation that is causing it. We get lost in the drama. The path of awakening, the secret of awakening, is to take a radical turn at this point. Instead of pursuing the problem, you pursue the me to whom the problem has come. You ask, who is this me? What is it? Where did it come from? What is its nature? You turn the light of awareness away from the worldly drama and onto the protagonist of that drama. You look for this I. You try to find it, to grasp it, to see it. And as you look with a quiet, sustained attention, you will find that it has no substance. It is a ghost. It is a thought, a habit, a contraction in consciousness. It is not a solid, enduring entity. It is a phantom that is sustained only by your unquestioning belief in it. As you persist in this inquiry, the belief in the me begins to weaken. As the I thought loses its power, the problems that were attached to it also lose their power. They have no ground to stand on. The fear, the anger, the worry, they were all happening to a fictional character. When you see the character as fictional, you are no longer so terribly concerned with its dramatic plight. A space begins to open up. This space is the beginning of the expansion. It is the feeling of consciousness loosening its tight identification with the person. It is the dawning of a profound peace that is not dependent on whether your problems are solved or not. It is the peace of your true nature, the peace of the self, which was always here, patiently waiting beneath the noisy drama of the personal self. This is the beginning of the journey, the gentle unfolding of the secret that you are already free. This path of inquiry and surrender is a deeply intimate one, a turning inward to the very source of our being. It is a journey we must each undertake within ourselves. Yet the shared aspiration for truth creates a bond that transcends the personal. It is in this spirit of a collective, quiet turning that our exploration continues. Before continuing, I would like to ask you to subscribe and help our study group on non-duality. The goal of this channel is to spread philosophies about self-knowledge. Thank you to all who follow us. The path taught by Robert Adams is often called the path of surrender. This word, surrender, can be easily misunderstood by the Western mind, which is conditioned to associate it with weakness, defeat, and giving up. In the context of Advaita Vedanta, however, surrender is an act of supreme intelligence and strength. It is the wisdom to cease fighting a battle that can never be won, the battle of the personal self against the totality of the universe. It is the letting go of the immense and exhausting burden of being a doer. The ego, the I thought, believes that it is in control. It believes, I am making these decisions. I am performing these actions. I am responsible for the outcome of my life. This belief in personal doership is the source of all anxiety and pride. When things go well, the ego feels prideful and superior. When things go badly, it feels guilt, shame, and fear. It is constantly oscillating between these poles, forever buffeted by the winds of praise and blame, success and failure. This is a life of profound tension. To relax the mind, to expand your consciousness, is to see through this illusion of the doer. The practice of surrender is the moment-to-moment remembrance that you are not the doer. It is the conscious relinquishing of the sense of personal agency. How is this practiced? It begins with the simple observation of your own life. You begin to notice that most of your actions and even your thoughts happen on their own, without a central commander giving orders. The body breathes, the heart beats, the digestive system works, all without any I controlling them. Thoughts appear in the mind from an unknown source, unbidden. You did not decide to have your next thought. It simply appears. As you observe this, you begin to cultivate the attitude, this is happening, but I am not doing it. When you are typing, you watch the fingers move across the keyboard and you cultivate the feeling that typing is happening, but there is no me who is the typist. When you are speaking, you listen to the words as they emerge and you practice the understanding. The speaking is happening, but there is no personal me who is the author of these words. This is not a denial of the action, but a denial of the false entity that claims ownership of the action. This practice can be supported by a simple inner statement or feeling such as, "Thy will be done," or "I surrender all to the self," or simply resting in the feeling that a higher power, consciousness itself, is the only true doer. The particular form of the thought is not as important as the feeling of letting go it engenders. It is a conscious relaxation of the clenched fist of the ego. What happens when you do this? At first, the ego will rebel. It will scream in fear. If I am not in control, everything will fall apart. I will become passive. I will fail. I will be taken advantage of. This fear is the ego's survival mechanism. Its entire existence is based on the illusion of control. To surrender this control feels like death to the ego, and in a sense, it is. It is the beginning of the death of the illusion. But if you persist with gentleness and faith, you will discover that the opposite of what you feared happens. When you let go of the frantic need to control everything, life begins to flow with an unexpected grace and intelligence. Actions still happen, but they are more spontaneous, more intuitive, and more appropriate to the situation, because they are not being filtered through the narrow, fear-based agenda of the ego. You become a clearer instrument for the universal intelligence to act through. This is what it means to expand your consciousness. You cease to be a small, isolated manager, and you become a conduit for the whole. This surrender must also be applied to our problems and suffering. As Robert taught, when a problem arises, be it financial, relational, or physical, our tendency is to immediately jump into the problem with our personal mind and try to fix it. We strategize, we worry, we analyze. This is trying to solve the problem on the level of the problem. Robert Adams advises a radically different approach. Instead of focusing on the problem, you focus on the me who has the problem. You surrender the problem to the self, to consciousness. This means you consciously withdraw your energy from the obsessive thinking about the problem. You acknowledge its presence, and then you turn your attention inward. You say to yourself, this problem has appeared in my awareness. I, as a person, am helpless to solve it. I turn it over completely to the self. Let the one reality, the one power, handle it. And then you let it go. You rest in the silence of your own being, in the feeling of I am. This is not a form of spiritual bypassing or denial. It is an act of profound wisdom. It is the recognition that the small personal mind, with its limited knowledge and its conditioning, is not the best tool to solve deep-seated problems. By surrendering the problem to the vast intelligence of consciousness, you are allowing for solutions and resolutions to appear that your personal mind could never have conceived. You are getting your own noisy, fearful ego out of the way so that a deeper harmony can establish itself. This practice of surrender is the great secret of awakening. It is the doing that is a profound undoing. It is the constant, gentle release of the mistaken identity that is the cause of all our tension. As you practice this, your consciousness does, in a sense, expand. It expands beyond the narrow confines of the personal story. You begin to feel your identity less as the character in the movie and more as the silent, unmoving screen upon which the entire movie of your life is projected. The screen is never harmed by the fires or floods in the movie. It is ever present, ever peaceful, ever free. This is your true nature. Surrender is the process of waking up from the movie and realizing you are the screen. The central pillar that supports the path of surrender is the direct practice of abiding in the source of the mind, which Robert Adams, following his guru, Ramana Maharshi, identified as the feeling of I am. This is the core practice, the most direct doing that leads to the expansion of consciousness. It is the active side of the coin of surrender. While surrender is the letting go of the false, abiding in the I am is the resting in the true. What is this I am? It is not the verbal statement, I am. It is the silent, fundamental feeling of existence itself. It is the sense of being that is present in all of us, all the time. It is the first and most basic reality of our experience. Before you are a man or a woman, before you are happy or sad, before you have a name or a history, you simply are. This sense of amness is the light of pure consciousness shining within the body-mind. Usually, this pure light immediately gets refracted through the prism of the mind and becomes I am this or I am that. We immediately identify the pure sense of existence with a name, a form, a story. The practice is to catch this feeling before the identification happens, or to disentangle it from the identifications that have been layered upon it. How does one practice this? It begins with stillness. You sit quietly and allow the initial storm of thoughts and bodily sensations to begin to settle. You are not trying to force them to stop, but you are withdrawing your active interest in them. You let them be. Then, you gently bring your attention inward, away from the objects of sense and the objects of thought. And you try to feel the simple background sense of presence, the feeling that I exist, do not think about it, feel it. It may feel like a subtle vibration in the chest, a quiet hum of aliveness throughout the body, or simply a silent, knowing presence. There is no right or wrong way for it to feel. The key is to recognize it as something distinct from your thoughts, your emotions, and your physical sensations. It is the witness of all those things. It is the screen upon which they are all playing. Once you have a sense of this I am, you rest your attention there. You abide in it. You let it be your anchor. When thoughts arise, as they will, you do not fight them. You simply recognize that they are not you. They are clouds passing through the sky of your being. You let them come and go, while your primary attention remains rooted in the silent feeling of I am. The thought might say, this is boring, what's for dinner? You see the thought, you acknowledge it, and you gently return your focus to the feeling of existence. It is a very gentle but persistent practice. This is the most potent way to expand your consciousness. By consistently placing your attention on the I am, you are watering the root of your true nature and starving the weeds of the egoic mind. You are shifting your center of gravity from the personal thinking mind to the impersonal silent consciousness. The more you abide as the I am, the more you realize that this is your true home. It is a place of profound peace, security, and silence. It is utterly untouched by the chaos of the world or the turmoil of the mind. Robert Adams would say that this practice is like a fire that slowly burns up the vasanas, the latent tendencies of the mind. Every moment you spend abiding in the I am is a moment you are not feeding your old habits of worry, fear, and desire. The old mental patterns begin to atrophy from lack of use. The ego, which is nothing but a bundle of these habits, begins to thin out and become more transparent. This is not a practice of visualization or affirmation. You are not trying to imagine you are pure consciousness. You are investigating and resting in the actual feeling of consciousness that is present right now. It is the most real thing about you. Everything else, your body, your thoughts, your memories, the world, is a changing appearance. The I am, the sense of being, is the one constant reality in your experience. It is the same sense of being you had as a child and the same sense you have now. The personality has changed, the body has changed, but the fundamental I exist has not. To abide in this is to abide in the eternal. When you are faced with a difficult emotion, you can use this practice. A surge of anger appears. Instead of getting lost in the story of the anger, you can withdraw your attention from the story and sink it back into the underlying feeling of I am. You feel the anger as pure energy, a sensation in the body, but you remain rooted in the silent witness, the I am, which is untouched by the anger. You will find that the anger, observed from this stable ground, passes much more quickly. It is like watching a storm from inside a strong house. You can see the lightning and hear the thunder, but you are safe and secure within. The I am is your fortress of peace. This is the true secret of awakening. It is not hidden in a cave in the Himalayas or in an ancient scroll. It is the most obvious, intimate, and ever-present reality of your own being. The secret is that what you are looking for is what you are. The journey is not one of distance, but of recognition. The doing that leads to the expansion of consciousness is the gentle, persistent act of turning your attention away from the distracting movie of the mind and resting it in the silent, blissful reality of the screen, the pure feeling of I am. The natural result of this path of surrender and self-inquiry is the spontaneous blossoming of certain qualities in one's life. These are not qualities that are practiced or forced. They are the fragrance of the self that naturally emanates when the ego's suffocating grip is loosened. Robert Adams placed great emphasis on these fruits of awakening, seeing them as the true measure of one's progress. The most prominent of these are peace, silence, and harmlessness. Ahimsa, peace, shanti, is perhaps the first and most noticeable fruit. As you begin to disidentify from the personal doer and the worried thinker, a profound sense of peace begins to dawn. This is not the peace of a successful outcome or a pleasant circumstance. It is not the opposite of trouble. It is a peace that underlies all circumstances. It is the peace of the deep ocean, which is not disturbed by the waves on the surface. When you realize that your true nature is the timeless, changeless self, you are no longer so violently tossed about by the ups and downs of life. You have found a ground of being that is unshakable. This peace is not something you feel as an object. You realize that you are peace. It is the very substance of your being, which was previously obscured by the noise of the ego. From this peace arises silence. Again, this is not merely the absence of external sound. It is the silence of the heart that Robert so often spoke of. It is the cessation of the compulsive inner monologue, the constant chatter of the mind. The small mind, with its judgments, its worries, its endless commentary, becomes quiet because the I, who was its center, has been seen through. In this inner silence, a new kind of perception is born. You begin to hear the world without the filter of your own thoughts. You see people without the immediate label of your prejudices. You experience a direct, unmediated communion with reality. This silence is not empty. It is full. It is filled with the vibrant, intelligent presence of consciousness itself, perhaps the most important and beautiful fruit of this path, and the one that Robert Adams once emphasized most passionately, is the quality of harmlessness, or ahimsa. As your consciousness expands beyond the confines of the body-mind, you begin to experience a sense of unity with all of life. The rigid boundary between self and other becomes porous and transparent. You begin to see your own self, your own consciousness, looking back at you from the eyes of every person and every creature. When this becomes your lived reality, the capacity to intentionally harm another being simply falls away. To harm another would be to harm yourself. To cause pain to another would be to inflict pain upon your own being. A deep and abiding compassion naturally arises, not a sentimental pity, but a profound empathy born of the recognition of shared identity. Your actions become spontaneously kind and gentle. You become a force for peace in the world, not through any grand political action, but simply through the quality of your own presence. You become a person in whom others feel safe, a person who does not judge, who does not condemn, who does not want anything from them. This, for Robert, was the ultimate test. You can have profound meditative experiences and intellectual understanding, but if you are still capable of anger, cruelty, or harsh words, the awakening is not complete. The true sign that you are awakening to the self is that you are becoming a kinder, gentler, more loving human being. The expansion of consciousness is the expansion of love. This is the fulfillment of the journey. The secret of awakening is the path of realizing your own true nature as boundless, peaceful, silent consciousness. And the proof of this realization is a life lived in a spirit of unconditional love and harmlessness. You begin by wanting to relax the mind and expand your consciousness for your own sake to end your own suffering. You end by realizing there is no separate you, and your own peace becomes inseparable from the peace of all beings. You become a blessing to the world simply by being what you truly are.